who am I? Again, you didn't come in to hear about me, but just to give you perspective before I start presenting. I'm Bahamian, Nassau resident. I have a degree in business and e-commerce in university in Canada. I'm the founder of Bahamas Internet Association. I'm the former director of operations at BahamasLocal.com. And I give a lot of credit here to Jason McDowell, who gave me that opportunity. He's the founder of Bahamas Local. So if you didn't know, say hello to Jason during the break. And I'm not a guru. You know, a lot of internet business, there's a lot of self-proclaimed gurus, and now the internet business has changed so much where no one can be a guru in everything. It's just grown into a professional discipline, and it's grown where it's difficult to be a guru in everything, and if you have the mentality of a guru, you stop learning. And I'm here to present, but I'm also here to learn. I appreciated the Mark's talk, I saw the Andy Delano's talk, and I really want to see the rest and get to know the people there. So I'm not a guru, we're all students. The current state and future of internet marketing. One, the power of local. And I mentioned Bahamas Local. Now, people, it started with the internet was a way to access the world. And that's still true. But you think, you know, well, I can access somebody in sub-Saharan Africa once they can pick up an internet connection that the UN set up or whatever the case may be. And that's somewhat changed. Things now become a lot more localized. And local businesses started to think, how do I get business locally on the internet? And businesses which have no purpose of international affairs, dentist, lawyer, engineer, electrician, plumber, I mean the list goes on. Now, I may look online first before I go to the yellow pages or before I make a call. So you got to be thinking about who's local and how do they find me through the internet. Think somewhat less, depending on what business you're in, this abstract international market. Holistic and integrated. Online marketing is just that. It should be holistic and integrated. One, integrated with everything you're doing online, and two, integrated with your offline media. You know, as much as the pundits say, print is still relevant. Radio is still relevant, TV is still relevant, particularly in the Bahamas. You know, if you want a story to be read in the business, about business, put that on the front page of the Tribune business section. You'll be getting calls at 4 noon. It's just part of the consciousness of the Bahamian public. So don't neglect offline advertising, but make use of it and send people online. You know, people who do this well, or like GoDaddy in the Super Bowl. You know, they spend $3 million on this commercial, on production, and they always leave a cliffhanger to send you on the web. And when you look at their traffic stats, you know, they go maybe in a flat line, and right after that commercial they spike because people go online. They leverage that offline spend into online traffic, which is generally much less expensive to deal with someone online as opposed to offline. Online content is the new marketing. What does that mean? When I want to hire someone, I just go online, see what they're about. And if they haven't made statements about that industry or about that product, they may not be such an authority. So you want to put yourself out there as far as your content and as far as your authority. There was an interview with Jeff Bezos, who founded Amazon.com, with Charlie Rose about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And he made an interesting analogy that the ratio of marketing spend and production spend is reversed. What do you mean by that? Back in the day when it was just basically 3 media, print, TV, and radio, you spent most of your money on advertising because there was so few mediums that you could control the market if you had the money and you had the relationships with the major media houses. Now that's changed. The avenues are so broad that I can find out through my own means, and you don't control your message. Someone can post about you, write a review about you, and that's totally out of your control. So think less about raw advertising spend as opposed to the quality of the production. And ironically now, on the internet, the quality of the product has become much more important. Because again, back in the day you could have controlled your message and you could have sold a mediocre product pretty well. But now, that's becoming a lot more difficult. The fading 9-to-5 buying mentality, people are busy. People have money, are busy. What do they do with making that money? And that basically happens Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 and beyond, and weekends. So if I'm looking to buy a car, I generally search at night, on weekends, on my own time. So if I'm looking to buy a car local, I'm going to try to look for it online. Or what a lot of Bahamians do, they buy their car from Japan, completely online. So, you know, the dealership down the road is thinking about the other dealership down the road. What about the dealership in Japan which perfected the online advertising and the online transaction? And it can get your car here in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the case may be. The power of video. Video is now one of the most important things on the web. One, it's the richest form of communication. I mean, basically our eyes, we see in video. We see in real time, in colors in 3D. And you know, on YouTube, there are 2 billion videos watched every day. 2 billion videos watched every day, and that's just YouTube. And there are other video networks, as well as sites that host their own videos. And if you think of the bandwidth on the web as a pie, right now 60% of that bandwidth is consumed by video. And in several years, it's going to be 90%. So you really need to think about video, and even if, again, if you're in a ministry or a church, you want to connect with your congregation, if you're doing stuff online, put up video. Make use of video. That is the language of the web now. A bit about websites. A website is a business tool. Don't forget that. A lot of people put up a website by default because they think they have to have one, which they kind of do. But they think of the design elements or the technical programming elements. But how is this site going to convert? How is the site going to make money? What is your message? What is your content? So a website is a business tool. And don't let your designers tell you different, because they want to make the most beautiful thing the world's ever seen. And don't let your programmers tell you different, because they want to make the most technically cutting-edge thing the world has ever seen. And when I go to a site and they say, oh, I need to plug in something, that turns me off to no end. When I have a modern computer and one of the latest browsers, and if I'm not compelled to stay, I'll just leave. It's just as simple as that, because I just don't want to plug in anything. And also, it's a bit condescending. You know, saying your computer's not good enough to see my content to be a customer. Well, maybe I don't want to be a customer, and I'll just leave. So think about the website as a business tool. Don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of people go to create sites and they want to make something groundbreaking, something that the world has never seen, and customers can love me for it. No, they can hate you for it. Because people are creatures of habit, and they're used to consuming websites in a certain way. Home, about us, products and services, contact us for a simple 4 or 5 page site. And if you create something that's so groundbreaking and innovative and abstract, when I go there and I feel confused, in the online and offline world, confusion is one of the worst states for a mind to be in. If you're selling to a client face-to-face or online, when I feel confused, I don't particularly like it. I want to get out of that situation, so I'm no longer confused. So I'll just leave that site as well. So don't reinvent the wheel. Use what has generally been best standards and practices on the web. Website budgets. You're starting with a basic 4 or 5 page site. You're going to start at $1,000 and up. You look at a lot of the insurance companies here and the real estate companies who have more extensive sites and back-end databases that produce results or live quotes or real estate properties. They're starting in the 10,000 plus range, and it could go well beyond that. So these are obviously wide ranges and rules of thumb about website budgets. If you just build it, they will not come. If you just build it, they will not come. We've watched too many Kevin Costner movies, building baseball fields and cornfields. So people are just not going to come. And when you build your site, you don't want to exhaust yourself on your website. And that exhaustion could be financially. It could be emotionally because you've been building this thing forever. Or it could just be physically, you're tired of building this site. So you need to leave a reserve, and a reserve in all those areas, because they're going to be change orders, guaranteed. You need to get people to the site. What does that take? Search engine optimization, social media, advertising on Facebook, advertising on Google, advertising on other networks that exist. So don't exhaust yourself just on your site if you think you've arrived. You just started. A website is just a start. Internet marketing tools and practices. Accepting online payments. This is probably the most common question I get from beginning to want to accept payments online. First thing I say is, what do you do? And if you do something that's not relevant to accepting payments online, just don't worry about it. That's the simple answer. Beyond that, Jason could probably give you more insight on the break, but local banks are starting to offer the service. But my concern is, are they ever going to be price competitive? And are they ever going to have the level of service that you can get from carriers in the US? And when I've accepted payments online, I've accepted through the US. I've almost been forced to. I prefer to just accept them here and just have everything Bahamianized, but it's just really not possible. So you need to look basically the US merchant accounts and who process your cards, and you keep the money in the States and you spend it if you have a supplier, or you spend it when you go on vacation, or you just wire the money here. And you know, there's really no problem with US dollars coming in the country. It's always getting them out that's the problem. So if you're wiring in, you know, reasonable amounts of money, it's really not a problem. It'll just come, they'll take off the exchange and you'll get it right in your local account. So it's kind of what you have to do. The growth of social media is pretty self-explanatory. We know the biggest ones: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You know, to some extent, Bahamas Local has social media elements, so there are local and regional social media outlets. So this is a huge part of the overall landscape of business, online business in particular. Online advertising options. Again, internationally, you think of Facebook, Twitter, you can now advertise, Google, YouTube, you can advertise, local options, you know, the newspapers, the Tribune, the Guardian, the Bahamas Weekly, Bahamas Local. So there are local and even regional options when it comes to advertising, as well as the ones we all know. Email marketing, this is a big one, and Dylan and I were just talking about this. This is a very sensitive topic, for me at least. Email has become a very, very personal experience. And as LeVar said, every day you have to check your email, no one's feeling compelled to. And that's a private space now. And my business life and my social life is driven around my email box. So when someone sends me something I didn't ask for, I take it a bit personal. That's a bit weird, but I take it a bit like, I didn't ask for this, so why are you sending it to me? So I can hit report spam pretty easily. And there are local companies who send out blasts and they send you 3-4 a day. And it gets a bit much. So when you're doing email marketing, be very careful of who you send it to. Do they want to receive it? And what do they want to receive? So one, do they want to receive it? And two, think about what they want to receive and try to segment that list down as much as reasonably possible. So if one is interested in this type of service, this type of message, then try to split it up as much as possible. Or else you can get yourself in trouble. Either people are going to be offended, or eventually Caleb Holmes is going to come to you and say, well, I'm getting a lot of reports of spam and I might need to block your account. It happens. It happens. Technologies may change, but people don't. And principles don't. Think of the internet, business and life principles still apply. What are those principles? Hard work, sacrifice, capital, revenue, financial statements. These things still apply, and a lot of marketers pretend like they don't. And they'll market you a product, you know, you buy it today and you're selling tonight. It just doesn't happen like that for the most part. You have to put in your time. And this is not a sexy thing to say. And if I had a product in the back of the room, I might not be saying this, but I might say mine could actually do what they say theirs could do. But it just doesn't happen. So don't check your ethics at the door. Don't check your work ethic at the door. Don't check your need to have capital, need to create financial statements, need to create a business plan. Don't check it at the door because you're on the web, and that's going to save you. It's not going to save you. It's a tool and it's an avenue, but the avenue is only as good as what you put into it. Good products and clear value propositions. Again, what Jeff Bezos said before, you could have a mediocre product and you could ram it down people's throat through the three major media who you had a relationship with, and you had the buying power to command the top space on the front page, full page, etc. That's completely changed. That's completely changed. If I was looking to buy something now, this microphone, this is a product someone created. I'll look up this serial number and I'll go to Amazon.com maybe and see the reviews and see the price and compare the price. And if this is actually not a good product, I won't buy it. Whereas to my local store, they would have two options. And I would pick up one of the two. It's changed now. So you really have to kind of retrench yourself and think, is the product of my message of value? You have to be honest with yourself. And if it isn't, you got to make it better. You're not going to be able to market and advertise yourself out of a bad product or even a mediocre product, because the cost of switching now is very low. And I can find out basically most about your product before I even buy it or before I even approach it. Integrity, critical on the web. Work and patience, you know, these are the ethics you don't leave at the door. And when you think of good value and clear value propositions, I think of the Wild Wild West, the story of the traditional snake oil salesman who came into town and sold you Kool-Aid and said it could cure God knows what. And they did that for a week or two until the town people realized it was a hoax, and they left in the middle of the night to the next town. There was no communication, there was no Facebook, there was no email, and no one knew their names. They probably had obviously false names. So they went and repeated the same thing and went on and on and on. You can't do that today. It's just impossible. You mess with me once, I write a review, I spread it, that's like wildfire. It's like a virus. It's called an idea virus. It just spreads. So your integrity is actually more important now than it was 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. Because you could, if someone's had a bad experience, you could just kind of shoo them away and they would stew and they would tell their family and that would be it. But now, it's totally different. People can magnify themselves. They call Twitter word of mouth on steroids, as an example. So if I have a bad experience and I put that on Twitter and I have a following, and they retweet it, which means they send it on to their followers, it just spreads like crazy. A positive message and a negative message. And we know the negative messages spread a lot easier than positive, right? So when someone has a bad experience, that's probably going to spread a lot quicker than someone has a positive experience. Capital, revenue, expenses, and cash flow. These things, very relevant, very relevant. So don't check the business principles and life principles and accounting principles at the door because you're working on the web. Working in this industry, if any one of you looking to get into it, treat it as a professional discipline. I'm very much a student of the industry, but I have a degree in e-commerce. I've studied it and I've worked in relevant positions in the industry, but sometimes I feel good, sometimes I feel inadequate because there's so much changing. And YouTube was invented 2005, 2006, Twitter I think 2006, 2007, Facebook I'm not sure, 2004, 2005. So the person who was the expert and the king of the mountain in 2003, there were multiple game-changing applications that came out a couple years later. So if they rested on their laurels, they're now no longer relevant. So you have to keep going. And that's a bad thing and a good thing. Because if you're not in the industry now and you want to make a hold, find out what the latest application is that just hasn't hit the mainstream yet, which is coming. And become an expert on it. That's it. Become an expert on that. And spread your message. Create a product that accentuates that application. If you were in the early stage of Facebook, create a product, how to advertise on Facebook, how to create a following on Facebook, how to create a custom Facebook page. These are all potential information products that can be done and people will value if they're good products. So treat it as a professional discipline and stay current. And, I often think here of law, engineering to some extent. To be the best lawyer in the Bahamas takes, let's say, 25 years. And let's say you have to be in one of the big firms. And let's say you have to go through the whole garden. Because law really doesn't change that much, in theory. The internet's not like that. Not at all. It's very democratic. It's very spread out. There's no gatekeeper. And like I say, when these new technologies come on stream, you're just as ignorant as the next guy, or the next girl, or the next woman. And you need to get relevant. And you can only get relevant by studying an application. So keep that in mind. Get yourself trained. You can learn a lot on your own, but from my experience, it becomes deceptive because you feel like you can stay at home in your bedroom, study these things and become relevant. It happens, and it supplements what you're doing, but like at Synergy Bahamas in Palmdale, they have a great course for this. I did a 15-week web design class there, and you learn stuff in an intense way that you could never learn just pecking on it as your own. You have a professional instructor, you have classmates, you have homework, so get yourself trained. Nobody would question this in accounting, in law, in engineering because these are clearly defined and also your deficiencies have become very obvious. If you build a building that falls down, you're a bad engineer. That's clear. But if you build a bad website, people are not going to look for you. It's not going to matter. But you're not going to do great business either as well. So get yourself trained, treat it as a professional discipline. Because it's quickly becoming that, if not already. Beware, the Bahamas is a small market. Beware, the Bahamas is a small market. When you're thinking of doing things, and you want to be just local, you have to really think of a game plan. You probably have to be more diverse than you would be in a bigger market where you can specialize. Here you can't particularly do that because of the small nature of the market. So just beware of the small market. The market is growing as our population grows and as people adopt these technologies more. So over time it's going to get easier and the market's going to get bigger. But at the moment it's a relatively very small market. Offer your services internationally. This is always an option. I've done a lot of outsourcing on the web. And use sites like elance.com, never heard of it. Oh yeah, by the way, I should have said this before, but I can email anyone who wants the slides. So you don't have to frantically write, but I told you that way too late. But yeah, just come up to me and I'll give you my card or give me your email and I'll send it to you. But you can offer your services internationally. You can use sites like elance.com, which I've used before, and I've outsourced to China, the Philippines, India, the States, Canada, Mexico. So it's really a world market. And one, you're a consumer of services, but you can also be a provider of services. This is, say again.
Elance?
Yeah, E-L-A-N-C-E, like freelance, but Elance. And it's probably the biggest outsourcing site there is. It's really a great service. And you know, the outsourcing internationally does have its pitfalls as well, because you are competing on the world stage, literally. You know, when I put up bids and I get 10, I put up a request for proposal and I get 10 bids. Those bids are literally around the world depending on what I put up. And outsourcing things to India is good for things that are very straightforward. If I need research which doesn't require necessarily thought, or the output can be easily measured as good or bad, and there's nothing sensitive in there as far as information, I'll go to India, where I do $5, $6 an hour, no national insurance. You don't have to sign them up, hire you and then give you $100,000 to let you go if you're not a bad person. When it comes to employment laws. So you need to think, you can't do something that's very much a commodity. If it's just pay-per-click management, doing just general research, you're going to be priced at the India price, basically. And to be honest, they have this thing down to a system. And they have banks of 10,000, 20,000 people in these massive, I guess, call centers, basically. And they have different disciplines in one area. So besides the price, they actually do a very good job. So when you're outsourcing or when you're offering your service internationally, you think beyond the commodity type services and what maybe the non-commodity type services. You're an expert at Facebook. You're an expert at YouTube. You're a business consultant. You speak English. This is not to be underestimated. You live in Eastern time zone. This is not to be underestimated. Because I've outsourced India and it's a pain when it's 12 hours difference. When you go to sleep, they're waking up, and vice versa. It can be good when you send something in the afternoon, you'll get it back in the morning. It's good that way. But if you want to interact and do things with them, it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult. When you get home at 7 o'clock, they're waking up. And it doesn't create a lot of great environments for collaboration. Free consultations, if you want to take it more, this is obviously a dramatic summary. I can give you my card, contact me. There's no lead on there, there's no anything. As a Bahamian, someone part of the community, and with the Bahamas Internet Association, that's an open industry group, non-profit, so feel free to contact me. So I left a lot of time for questions, and I'll be glad to take them. Not everybody at once.
You mentioned that you do a lot of outsourcing. How have you done? You said you did something in the Philippines. How do you find?
I would say it's hard to generalize. First point, because India has a busy. Philippines, I don't know, 100 million, a couple hundred million. So it's a case by case. But overall, like I said, with stuff that's, you need to find the top 100 ranked websites in a country. That's a straightforward. There's no subjectivity or no opinion in that. That's a straightforward research activity. For that, they're phenomenal because it's just straightforward and it's not really a language issue. It's not a cultural thing. It's just a straightforward research thing. For that, I find it phenomenal. When it comes to stuff where I need a lot of collaboration and stuff that I need a lot of input on and stuff that I want to interact with them during business hours, that becomes very difficult. Granted, they've got around that a little bit because now they have 24-hour sites. So for the North American market, these large companies in the Far East, they will come on shift at our time, their time would be 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever the case may be. And when you call them, it's actually 5 o'clock in the morning, but they're business entire and they're working. It's just a 24-hour shift. So long answer, but short answer would be if it's easy, compartmentalize things that you don't need to collaborate on, send it. If you need to create a website or a business or an application which is very intensive and you need to collaborate, I would try to stay in North America, in our time zones, in our culture, in our English language. If somebody doesn't speak English as a first language and you do something that's delicate and it needs a lot of interpretation, it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I either feel very bad or very good. It's either a very, very comprehensive presentation or very, very poor. I already got one question.
More questions?
Business cards.
Business cards.
Yeah, I have them.